Have you ever wondered why some people seem to get everything they want while others struggle with the same problems year after year? Here's the brutal truth. Your weaknesses aren't just minor flaws. They're silent destroyers working against you every single day. Most people think weakness is just a personality trait. Wrong. Weakness is a choice, and every day you choose to stay weak, you're choosing to stay powerless. Machiavelli understood something that modern society desperately tries to hide from you. Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experiences what you really are. The world doesn't reward good intentions. It rewards strength, strategy, and results. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself, "I'll be patient, I'll wait my turn, my time will come," yet deep down you know that time never comes? You're not overlooked because the universe is unfair. You're overlooked because weakness makes you invisible. Here's the secret. Weakness is not passive. It actively sabotages you. It whispers excuses in your ear. It convinces you that comfort is safer than growth, that avoidance is easier than confrontation, that silence is better than truth. And while you sleepwalk through life, weakness sharpens its blade, ready to cut down everything you could have been. Nietzsche once wrote, "He who cannot command himself will always remain a servant." Let that sink in. Your weaknesses aren't just inconveniences. They are the very chains that keep you enslaved. Today I'm going to show you exactly how to identify the weaknesses sabotaging your life and eliminate them before they destroy everything you're working for. But before we dive in, let me ask you this. What if everything you've been taught about being nice, patient, and endlessly forgiving wasn't designed to make you virtuous, but to keep you controllable? Let's get started. The mask of niceness. We live in a culture that worships niceness. Be agreeable, don't make waves, don't offend, wait your turn. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Niceness is not the same as kindness. Niceness is often weakness disguised as virtue. Machiavelli shocked the world when he declared, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." Why? Because being loved depends on others. Being feared, or at least respected, comes from strength within you. The illusion of niceness is one of the deadliest traps. Society tells you that being agreeable makes you good. But history tells us the opposite. Weak nations collapse. Weak leaders are overthrown. Weak individuals are forgotten. Think about your own life. How many times have you bitten your tongue, played small, avoided conflict, only to walk away feeling disrespected? You tell yourself, "At least I kept the peace." But in reality, you didn't keep peace. You lost power. And worse, you trained others to treat you as insignificant. Niceness, when born from fear, is not kindness. It's manipulation. You perform it, hoping others will approve of you, hoping they'll give back the love or validation you can't give yourself. But here's the twist. The world rarely rewards that. It punishes it. Plato once warned that the penalty for refusing to rule is to be governed by those worse than yourself. In other words, if you refuse to step into strength, you don't escape the game, you just lose by default. Ask yourself, where in your life are you mistaking niceness for strength? At work, in your relationships, with your family? Every time you avoid the hard truth in order to stay liked, you bury yourself deeper into the coffin of weakness. And here's the cruel part. Weakness doesn't just cost you opportunities. It costs you respect, attraction, and even self-worth. Because deep down, your soul knows when you've betrayed it. The psychology of self-sabotage. If weakness is a choice, why do so many people keep choosing it? The answer lies in psychology. Weakness thrives in your blind spots. It hides in patterns you've normalized. Psychologists call this learned helplessness. When you experience repeated failure, rejection, or control by others, your brain starts to believe, why even try? Nothing will change. So you shrink, you settle, you convince yourself that ambition is arrogance, that power is evil, that desiring more is selfish. But these are lies. They're protective stories your mind tells you so you can survive disappointment. The real danger? Those stories calcify into identity. You stop saying "I failed" and start saying "I am a failure." You stop saying "I'm scared" and start saying "I'm just not that kind of person." This is weakness at its most sinister. It doesn't chain your body, it colonizes your mind. Bonhoeffer, the German philosopher who resisted the Nazis, once wrote, "The greatest evil is not radical evil, but evil disguised as stupidity." Weakness often disguises itself the same way, not as a villain, but as comfort, as politeness, as just who I am. But here's the paradox. Every time you choose weakness, you reinforce it, and every time you confront it, even in small ways, you weaken it. Think of your willpower like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. The more you avoid resistance, the more fragile it grows. The people who rise in life are not the ones born with superhuman strength. They are the ones who stop negotiating with their own excuses. They break the cycle of self-sabotage by realizing weakness is not an identity, it's a habit, and habits can be broken. The illusion of comfort. Comfort feels safe. It feels like a reward for surviving the chaos of life. But have you ever noticed that the more comfortable you become, the more restless you actually feel? That's because comfort is not stability, it's sedation. Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But without a why, people drown in comfort. They binge, scroll, consume, and waste away. Comfort tells you you're fine where you are. Growth screams that you're lying to yourself. The brutal truth? Comfort is weakness disguised as peace. Every moment you choose comfort over confrontation, you're practicing surrender. You're building the muscle of avoidance. And avoidance kills dreams faster than failure ever could. Ask yourself, are you alive or are you just anesthetized? Because comfort will whisper you into the grave without you ever realizing you wasted your life. Niceness, the modern prison. We are taught from childhood, be nice, be agreeable, be polite. But Machiavelli warned us, it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Niceness, in truth, is often cowardice. It's the performance of goodness without the backbone of strength. People hide behind niceness to avoid conflict, rejection, or judgment. But here's the catch. Niceness doesn't earn respect. It earns exploitation. Think about it. When was the last time being nice gave you real power, real influence, or real progress? It didn't. Because niceness is predictable. And predictable people are controllable. The world doesn't need your niceness, it needs your strength, your discernment, your ability to say no, to stand firm, to protect what matters. Stop being nice. Start being real. Realness may offend, but it also commands respect. Fear as a weapon. Fear is painted as the enemy. Don't be afraid, they say. But fear is not the enemy. Fear is information. Fear tells you where the danger lies, but it also tells you where your growth hides. Machiavelli understood this. Leaders who mastered fear mastered people. Not because they were cruel, but because fear creates clarity. Look at your own life. What do you avoid out of fear? Speaking your mind? Asking for what you want? Walking away from toxic relationships? Fear exposes the exact chains you've placed on yourself. Weakness runs from fear. Strength studies it, harnesses it, uses it as fuel. Fear isn't meant to paralyze you, it's meant to prepare you. The question is not, how do I get rid of fear? The real question is, how do I use fear to destroy the very limits that keep me small? The weight of weak relationships. Here's a truth most people don't want to admit. The people closest to you are either your greatest strength or your greatest weakness. Relationships are mirrors. They either reflect back your power or your paralysis. Think of crabs in a bucket. When one tries to climb out, the others pull it back down. That's exactly how weak relationships operate. They anchor you in mediocrity, whispering, "Don't change, don't grow, don't leave us behind." But growth demands sacrifice. If the people around you aren't pushing you forward, they're pulling you under. Bonhoeffer once said, "Silence in the face of evil is itself evil." Replace evil with weakness, and you'll see the point. If your relationships are complicit in your stagnation, they are your enemies. The hardest truth? Sometimes the greatest act of strength is walking away. Power versus morality. We live in a world obsessed with morality, but Machiavelli dismantled the illusion centuries ago. He wrote that rulers who cling to being good will be destroyed by those willing to do what must be done. Morality is not useless, but morality without power is meaningless. A powerless good man changes nothing. A powerless good woman influences no one. Power, then morality. That's the sequence. First build strength, influence, and stability. Then you can use morality to shape the world. Weakness hides behind morality like a shield, but strength wields morality like a sword. Ask yourself, are your values guiding your actions, or are they just excuses for why you refuse to act? The seduction of victimhood. Society rewards weakness by glorifying victimhood. The louder you cry about your disadvantages, the more attention you get. But attention is not respect, and victimhood is not power. Nietzsche once said, "To live is to suffer. To survive is to find meaning in the suffering." But victimhood flips this wisdom upside down. It teaches people to suffer loudly, without meaning, without transformation. And it creates addicts, addicted to sympathy, addicted to handouts, addicted to excuses. Victimhood feels like a shield, but it's actually a cage. Here's the harsh truth. Life doesn't care about your excuses. It rewards those who fight back. Stop being addicted to your pain. Turn it into fuel. Because as long as you see yourself as a victim, you'll never rise as a victor. The discipline of ruthlessness. The word ruthless has been demonized. But ruthlessness is simply clarity with action. It's the ability to cut away what weakens you without hesitation. Think of a surgeon removing a tumor. Ruthless, precise, necessary. Weakness hesitates. Strength acts. Plato wrote about the philosopher king, a ruler guided by wisdom but unafraid to rule decisively. Ruthlessness is wisdom in action. It's not cruelty. It's clarity. If you want to crush weakness, you must practice ruthlessness with your time, your habits, your relationships, and your excuses. Ask yourself, what have you tolerated for too long? What cancer have you allowed to spread in your life because you lacked the courage to cut it out? Ruthlessness is the antidote. The rebirth through struggle. Every transformation begins with death. The death of who you used to be, the death of your illusions, the death of your excuses. Struggle isn't punishment, it's rebirth. The Stoics taught that hardship is not misfortune, but training. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Your weakness is not destroyed by comfort, it's destroyed by fire, by pressure, by conflict. The question is not, why am I struggling? The real question is, what version of myself is being born in this fire? Weakness prays for an easy life. Strength prays for resilience. Every struggle you survive makes you unrecognizable to your past self. That's the point. You're not supposed to stay the same. You're supposed to die and rise. And now, it all comes down to this: choice. Weakness is not genetic. It's not destiny. It's a choice. Every day, every moment, you choose. Do you choose fear or courage? Do you choose comfort or growth? Do you choose victimhood or responsibility? Machiavelli's darkest lesson wasn't about cruelty. It was about clarity. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experiences what you really are. So, who are you really? Will you be remembered as someone who surrendered to weakness, or someone who crushed it before it destroyed them? Here's the truth. You don't need permission to change. You don't need the world's approval to rise. You need only this, one ruthless choice, made again and again, until weakness is no longer your master, until strength is your identity. If this message shook something inside you, it's because you already know the truth. Weakness is destroying you, but it doesn't have to. The choice is yours, today. Right now, crush weakness before it destroys everything you were meant to become.